The Appalachian mountains look calm from a distance. They look like old, rolling ridges. Most people think the weather here is basic. They expect standard rain and standard snow, but the sky above them holds secrets. A short drive can feel like crossing seasons. Ridges can catch endless rain. Valleys can boom like cannons in the dark. These mountains run a hidden weather machine. You might think you know this landscape, yet the air behaves in wild ways. It ignores the normal rules. We are counting down the top 10 Appalachian weather tricks. These patterns hide entirely in plain sight. They turn quiet hollows into extreme environments. The number one spot goes to an invisible air avalanche. It changes everything about the valleys. Let's begin with fact number 10. Fact number 10. The valley rain machine. Most people think ridges always get the worst rain. That makes basic sense. Wind hits the high slope and rain falls, but sometimes the lowest ground gets soaked instead. This process is called reverse orographic enhancement. The term orographic simply means terrain-driven. Warm summer afternoons trap wet air down low. The valley acts like a massive catch basin. Moist air flows together and piles up. This builds a thick, hidden feeder cloud layer. Then a normal storm moves directly overhead. Rain drops from the high upper storm cloud. Those drops hit the dense valley cloud below. They sweep up extra moisture and grow fast, which means the rain gets very heavy quickly. The result is a massive sudden rain boost. The valley can get 10 times more water. 10 times is like switching to a fire hose. Meanwhile, the high ridge gets a light drizzle. That is wild. The penalty for missing this is flooded valley roads. A calm hollow can suddenly fill with deep water. These events peak during the late afternoon hours. Sun heats the slopes and funnels the air. This still happens on warm summer days. The terrain flips the rules right now. Fact number 9. The ghostly night. Drizzle. Winter storms seem to follow very simple rules. Clouds roll in and drop their heavy snow. You expect the worst action during the daytime, yet winter precipitation often peaks late at night. The surface looks totally dark and completely still, but the sky works much harder after sunset. Daylight causes chaotic, turbulent mixing in the air. That mixing punches holes and breaks clouds apart. Nighttime cools the surface and stops the mixing. So a very smooth, stable layer forms. Stable layers let clouds stack up without breaking. Then warm fronts slide in from the south. Warm, moist air rides gently over colder air. The mountains push that wet air even higher. Without daytime mixing, these clouds last for hours. The result is a steady, relentless rain or snow. This giant weather machine turns on after midnight. A gentle lift creates a surprisingly long event. That is insane. It turns quiet nights into massive storm factories. Low-level jets push extra moisture into the region. This feeds the clouds until the early morning. You wake up to unexpectedly deep snow cover. This continues to happen every single cold winter. The ridges squeeze out moisture in the dark. Fact number 8. The shadow that steals rain. The Appalachians are not sky-high, towering mountains. They look much softer than the jagged Rockies, yet they still steal massive water from storms. A strong system can completely soak one slope. Then the valley nearby stays surprisingly dry. This stark gap can happen across 15 miles. 15 miles is just a quick 20-minute drive. Here is the thing. Moist air hits the steep windward slope. The air rises fast and cools down quickly. It drops its water as very heavy rain. Some high ridges catch 80 inches a year. 80 inches is almost 7 feet of water. Then the remaining air crosses the mountain crest. It sinks rapidly down the other hidden side. Sinking air warms up extremely fast under pressure. Warmer air completely stops making new rain clouds. The result is a dry zone called a rain shadow. Valleys in this shadow miss out on storms. They might get only 35 inches a year. That is a huge missing slice of water. It drastically alters how the local creeks flow. This geographic pattern remains highly active today. The mountain wrings the air dry like a towel. Fact number 7. The lake made of cold air. You expect mountains to get colder going up. That is a fundamental rule of outdoor weather, but Appalachian valleys flip this rule upside down. A high ridge can feel mild at night, yet the hollow below feels like a freezer. It seems like the weather is acting wrong, but there is a hidden physical pattern here. Cold air is physically dense and very heavy. It flows downhill exactly like a slow river. It pools deeply in the lowest valley bottom. Then warmer air sits gently on top. The warmer air acts like a giant invisible lid. The valley becomes a sealed bowl of cold. This stack is called a temperature inversion. The temperature gap can reach 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That is like dropping from fall into deep winter. You cannot make this up. A short drive crosses an invisible freezing wall. Thick frost completely coats the low farm fields. The higher mountain roads stay completely dry. These heavy cold pools still form on clear nights. They trap the biting chill for many hours. Fact number 6. The forest that drinks clouds. The highest peaks look like dark green islands. You might assume normal rain keeps them alive. But these tall trees drink straight from clouds. Some peaks sit above 6,000 feet high. Low stratus clouds often float at that exact height, so the dark forest sits perfectly inside the cloud. It stays wrapped in thick fog for days. This happens during most of the summer season. The dense trees act like giant water nets. Tiny cloud droplets hit the sharp pine needles. They stick and merge into much bigger drops. Then water drips heavily to the forest floor. This unique process is called cloud interception. It adds 50 extra inches of water yearly. That is over 4 feet of hidden water. It never registers in a standard rain gauge. The result is a permanently soaked microclimate. Thick moss stays incredibly green and very heavy. The high forest creates its own humid world. This mountain cloud machine runs right now. The gray sky directly waters the deep roots. That is wild. Fact number 5. The wall that makes water. One specific county sits inside a massive rain machine. Transylvania County receives around 90 inches of rain. That is almost 8 feet of standing water. It is among the wettest places out east. The big secret is the shape of the rock. Moist air blows steadily up from the Gulf. It hits the Blue Ridge Escarpment head-on. An escarpment is a steep, sudden rock cliff. The air simply cannot go through the rock. It gets shoved upward extremely fast. Fast vertical rising means very rapid air cooling. The air loses 5 degrees every 1,000 feet. It hits full moisture saturation incredibly quickly. Heavy clouds form instantly on the rock face. Then torrential rain dumps out over the slopes. This exact cycle happens over and over. The steep terrain wrings the air completely out. Just miles away, another county gets half that rain. The mountain barrier creates a razor-sharp boundary. This atmospheric faucet keeps running today. Whenever south winds blow, the rock wall makes water. Fact number 4. The UFO clouds standing still. You look up and see a smooth, flat cloud. It looks exactly like a hovering flying saucer. It never moves with the high wind. Other clouds blow past, but this one stays. You might think it is a weird storm. You might think it is a strange fog cap. But it is actually a mountain wave cloud. Here's the thing. Strong winds hit the high ridge directly. The mountain violently pushes the fast air up. The air bounces back down on the other side. It creates a giant standing wave in the sky. At the top of the bounce, air cools. A lens cloud instantly forms. At the bottom of the bounce, air warms. The cloud rapidly vanishes into thin air. The air moves, but the wave stays fixed. This creates a stacked, smooth plate shape. These clouds actually mark incredibly violent turbulence. Hidden downdrafts can hit 2,000 feet per minute. That is like dropping hundreds of stories instantly. The calm look is a total trap. This sky bounce still happens on windy days. Fact number 3, the fog that refuses to leave. Morning fog in the valleys looks like a blanket. It seems highly peaceful. Yet it is a trapped, powerful weather engine. A valley can sit in thick fog for hours. Meanwhile, the peak above sees bright blue sky. Heavy cold air drains down the slopes at night. It fills the valley floor like a bathtub. This forms a massive, deep cold pool. A warm air layer sits heavily on top. This thermal inversion acts like a sealed jar. The dense air physically cannot mix. Moisture gets trapped tightly near the ground. The local humidity hits 100% saturation. Millions of tiny water droplets suddenly form. The thick fog entirely blocks the morning sun. The ground stays cold, so the fog survives. It literally feeds itself. The fog layer can reach 1,000 feet thick. That is like a 100-story building of trapped air. Strong wind is the only tool that breaks it. This happens nearly every crisp fall morning. The green valley becomes a sprawling white lake. Fact number 2, the sound of frozen ground. A winter night feels completely dead and quiet. Then a massive boom sharply shakes your house. Glass windows rattle wildly in their frames. You might think a massive tree fell. You might think a rare earthquake just hit. But the ground just exploded from the cold. This violent event is called a frostquake. Water soaks deep into the soil after rain. Then a brutal cold snap suddenly strikes. Air temperatures plunge 20 degrees incredibly fast. The trapped water freezes solid into ice. Ice physically expands about 9%. That tiny change acts like a hydraulic jack. Massive pressure builds inside the dirt and rocks. The tight frozen ground suddenly splits wide open. The long crack fires loudly like a gunshot. Frozen dirt transmits the shockwave sound perfectly. The loud boom echoes across the whole valley. These hit hardest around 3 in the morning. That is when the deep freeze drops lowest. That is insane. The cold itself creates a literal shockwave. This still happens during extreme winter temperature plunges. You sleep right over these invisible pressure traps. Fact number 1, the invisible air avalanche. The biggest secret starts with the simplest process. It quietly powers almost everything on this list. Ground loses surface heat fast under clear night skies. The air touching the dirt gets very cold. Cold air becomes physically dense and very heavy. It actually weighs more than warm summer air. Then planetary gravity simply takes over. The heavy frozen air slides rapidly downhill. This motion is called katabatic drainage. It acts exactly like water finding the lowest point. Millions of tons of invisible air rush downslope. It entirely fills the low hollows and valleys. The relentless flow can continue for several hours. It builds a massive hidden lake of cold air. The total depth can reach hundreds of feet. You can stand on a hill and feel the edge. One step down is freezing. One step up is comfortably warm. You cannot make this up. It requires absolutely no storm and no front. Just gravity and clear star-filled skies. This invisible avalanche runs every calm, clear night. It alters frost, thick fog, and rain patterns. The mountains move the air like a heavy fluid. The Appalachian landscape looks solid and unchanging, but these 10 secrets show a wildly different reality. The steep terrain violently forces water out of the wind. It traps freezing air in invisible deep lakes. It bends the fast wind into standing waves. It even makes the frozen ground snap like a bone. The weather here is strictly tied to the bedrock. Every ridge acts like a towering wall. Every valley acts like a deep catch bowl. What seems like a random passing storm is actually a highly tuned machine. These physical geographic forces continue to shape the environment today. The next time you see a weird flat cloud or feel a sudden chill, you know the exact reason. The mountains are running their hidden atmospheric engines right now.